very good evening to you watching UBC TV. My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa, coming to you with our weekly talk show, Pick a Point, a talk show that targets our social development, where we look at those social factors that we have to take lessons about to change the way we live at the individual level, where we stay, and then the country in general. So you're most welcome. This evening we're going to tackle something in Lamu district, although it is also happening in other parts of the country. In Lamu district, a district in the northern parts of Uganda, there is a rampant vice of tree cutting that side, which we all know that it ends up in very bad impact and results. So why is it happening? How does it happen? And what is government planning to do about it is what we are going to look at this evening. And at the end, we shall take a lesson as a country in general to see that this does not affect us again. My guest this evening is the Honourable Hilary Onek. He's the Minister for Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugees. Honourable, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Good evening, viewers.
Yes. Now, Honourable, briefly tell us about this problem. Is it a true story that there is rampant cutting of trees in Lamu district? Why, first of all, is it in Lamu? Are there so many trees in Lamu that it has attracted these perpetrators?
Thank you very much again, Jordan. It's true. There is wanton destruction of our natural forest in Lamu district. Of course, this is ongoing also in Amoro district, where there's intensive charcoal burning, and if you went to the bushes there, you find it will look like a battlefield. Okay. All trees, irrespective, cut down and burnt into charcoal. In Lamu, that is also concurrently going on. They are cutting for charcoal, but the one which really the population are not happy about, they are really upset, cutting of Abselia africana and the shea nut butter trees, which to them is their source of livelihood.
Income, actually.
Source of livelihood. And in a very irresponsible manner, trees which have been there for over 100 years, 120 years, 200 years, some of these trees are that old, and the population have always kept them there and as reference points and as their source of livelihood. It also had been playing a major role in moderating the environmental challenges in that sub-region. Most of these virgin forests in Lamu district and even amongst where people settlements are is being destroyed by loggers who by and large come from outside Lamu. And of course, using money, they got some local collaborators with whom they work in the destruction of the natural trees.
Okay.
And
do the authorities in Lamu know about this problem? Because I think stopping such things is why we would have them in a community. Do they know about it?
Yes, the authority in Lamu district, typically like anywhere, maybe they are, in my assessment, they may be insensitive to environmental impact of this destruction. It seems because what they've done is to kind of levy some tax on these people who are cutting the logs, doing logging. And these taxes are really meager, small money, which cannot even replace
a road.
Replace the destruction. And the destruction, the population concern right now is that with the changing environmental patterns, I mean climatic pattern now, the rainfall is no longer reliable, and people see that the trees that always give them good cover is being destroyed. You know, they raise alarm. And when the president toured northern Uganda, he was in Kitgum, in Noya, you know, it was in Kitgum and Amoro. The issue of logging was raised to the president, and he directed that should be stopped immediately because it would affect
yes,
the
but
environment.
now I'm looking at the authorities in
And this, the president directed that any official, the RDCs, the cows and so on, who don't act to stop this wanton destruction of the natural forest, he would take action and get them dismissed from their jobs. But this has not helped because the local authority has continued, those who are there has continued with the destruction, and they believe it's a minimal tax, allowing trailers and trailers of trucks ferrying this timber away from the district and bringing it down south. And the population are seeing their environment being destroyed, have taken up the matter in their hands because after complaining several times to the authorities.
I've been told that the authorities are almost absent in fighting this vice because the population have come up with measures of even stopping the trucks on their way ferrying these timber and the charcoal and whatever. First of all, isn't this a matter of taking the law in their hands, first of all, as the communities? Is it right?
If the authorities in the district don't
play their role,
don't really use the law to protect the population, then what is left for the population?
Okay.
What is left is just for them to now react and say, now that we have reported this case several times, no action is being taken, and these loggers continue to destroy our environment.
We now have to do something for ourselves.
So they've taken up, but really barehanded. They're just trying to block them, stop them, and some of the trucks arrested currently at the sub-county headquarters.
They're even released from the sub-counties?
No, those which have reached the sub-county headquarters have not been released. They are there.
Okay.
But,
besides that,
but there are some which are still in the bushes, which always move at night. And we've been having a lot of challenges blocking even those from leaving. This concern, Jordan, we brought it to the minister in charge of environment, with whom we have had meetings. We had a meeting on last week on Friday, and the matter we've agreed is to be brought forward to cabinet, and decision will be made on what step to be taken.
We shall come to that, Honourable.
Yeah.
But now, this tells probably that being that the communities are up in arms to fight the vice, vis-a-vis what I would call failure by the authorities that handle their business there, it means the perpetrators are not natives of the area.
No.
Am I right?
No, they are not natives of the area. Actually, these are businessmen from around Kampala here who have been going there to do the logging. And with big trucks, with cranes, because the logs are so huge that cranes, you need cranes to load them on the truck. They cannot be loaded by bare hands. Okay. They are very huge logs.
And if it were the villagers doing that, there is no way they would. So this is what you're talking about.
These are the kind of
These
logs.
are the trailers.
You can see the trailers with these logs, and the population are there helpless.
Okay.
Really, our appeal is to help this population, the poor population, who are seeing all this going on, destruction going on.
Besides what you have said, that the authorities are allowing this because of the little tax they impose on these business people who engage in cutting and logging these trees, we have information that actually they benefit in some other way at individual levels. So they are involved, and the people mentioned are LC officials, police officers, and some UPDF officers. First of all, in that very perspective, Honourable, is it true, because you're on the ground, is it true that police officers and UPDF officers are involved in this criminality?
Well, they have all been corrupted by these loggers because they go with huge money, sum of money, and because that has been going on. Even the local leaders, some local leadership, like councillors, LC5, have become loggers themselves, and then they would sell this log to these people coming from Kampala. And there's a total disorder there, which requires really action to stop it. And the leadership there, I don't think they have the capacity to stop it because of some conflicting interests.
Like?
Some of them have conflicting interests. You know, first of all, even the tax they allege to be collecting from the loggers, those taxes, I doubt they are not being banked in government. I mean, we don't know where the revenue is going. So all this we shall have to request IGG to go and check where
because
those
even if it were going
banked.
to government coffers, I don't think government can sacrifice the environment
No,
for
we cannot
taxes.
sacrifice. In fact, that's illegal, even illegal taxation, illegal. So really, our concern is our environment is going, and therefore the dangers of desertification. We may get deserts there. Because the desert is moving from the north south, through South Sudan and so on. It's coming.
Because actually, I was going to ask you.
When we destroy our environment, automatically we're inviting
desertification.
Yeah, desertification of our area.
Besides that, what else do you think will come or may come with the impact of this vice to the people of Lamu and elsewhere this kind of the same problem is happening in Uganda?
It will affect heavily the agriculture because the rain will not really be the same. And therefore, it will enhance poverty. Already the people are living more or less along the border of poverty. And so it will enhance further the poverty situation in the country. They started on agriculture seriously, planting simsim on economic scale, on large scale, and cassava and so forth. But all these activities, agricultural activities, are going to be really affected because the yields are getting affected, and that will only enhance poverty. And I don't think, in the long run, if the whole area, the environment is destroyed totally, then where will the poor peasants go?
Okay.
And these are really the problem, the challenges they are facing. We are facing. In fact, I'm complaining as a victim because that is my home area.
Yes.
And I'm also practicing agriculture there. We are doing some agricultural activities, and all this. For example, last year I had about 40 acres of simsim, which should have yielded for me the 40 acres times 6 bags per acre. I would have generated over 240 bags, but I ended up only getting 4 bags, 4.5 bags of
out
simsim.
of 40 acres.
Yeah, so I lost. And it's not only me, many farmers are losing.
Of course, I'm imagining you are a farmer of that level. Now I'm looking at people like me who are having 1 or 2 acres.
Yeah. So 1 or 2 acres, you may perhaps only harvest some few basins of simsim.
But besides the local authorities, don't you think you authorities at the national levels have also not played your role somewhere, somehow? Don't you think you're to blame as government now at a national level? Because this problem is not only in Lamu, you have talked about some other districts, but even in almost in all regions. Chako is coming from all the main roads that enter this town. Don't you think you have not played your role somewhere as government at a national level as far as the loss of our environment is concerned?
Well, I will not, because the regulations are there, I would not blame government.
We have them in books covered.
Yeah, there, but then who are the implementers? The implementers are the public servants who are there in the districts, who are there in the regions, who should be enforcing the law. If the law enforcement is weak, then really This is the issue that we are going to debate.
What happens when they fail to do their work? What happens? Do they go scot-free?
This is what this appeal that I'm coming as a victim of this destruction. My area is being destroyed. We are kind of bringing attention of the population, of not only of the people, but also attention of those in government who are responsible for the environmental protection.
Yes.
To jack up and make sure that this is not allowed to continue. No.
How are they what do you expect from the authorities or people in charge of protection of the environment to do right now? Because, Honorable, don't you think your plea is somehow coming up at a late hour?
It's not yet.
Because I think by the time these business people have now driven towards Lamour, it is after destroying the whole of Masaka, Kisoro, these ends of Busoga, and now hope is now in Lamour where they are now. There are some trees that somebody can cut and sell to get some money.
You know, the type of trees they are destroying are specifically in Lamour, environmentally in Lamour. In Lamour, in Amoro, in the West Nile sub-region, because we have the same climatic zones covering this area. So whatever species of trees which are in Lamour is also in those areas. Okay. With the exception that Lamour, because our population is not that huge, we still have some virgin areas where the natural trees are as they were. And now those are now being infringed on, and those have been helpful for us to control and moderate our weather, weather conditions, rainfall. They've been able to assist in kind of cooling down the area. But now when they are being destroyed, we are going to be left bare to the sun.
Do our people know the dangers of cutting trees in Uganda?
I believe they should know, because most people have gone to school, at least UPE, through UPE over the last 10 to 15 years or so. People have gone through schools. They understand, they know. Even old people, the elders, some of whom have never gone to school, these are the people who are complaining now. Okay. Because they know the importance of their habitat, these trees, environment. They know the importance.
Why do you think then one would go cut trees, carry on a lorry, he comes back tomorrow, he does the same thing for a whole year? This is what he does as an occupation, when he actually knows the dangers of what he's doing.
No, that's now that is criminality. Somebody, just like, for example, a thief would come and steal from your pocket. Does he not know that you need that money as well? And that money would be helpful for your life. So these are people who are just like robbers. They go and cut irrespective. But what disappointed me is that our district trying to tax the illegal activity, the destruction of our environment, is where we don't agree, where I don't agree with my district. And I believe other districts are also suffering, having the same problem like ours. Because I went to Koboko, I was in Arua, I got the same concern raised in those areas. But there, it is moderate because the population are resisting it. Very few cuttings takes place. Okay. But now, in Amoro, it is worse, just as bad as Lamour. We are neighboring Amoro.
In telling me that this is criminality, someone will do something they know that it is bad, even when they know it is bad. Are you ruling out a proposal that probably there are gaps as far as sensitization is concerned among our people as far as the dangers of cutting tree are concerned?
Definitely there are gaps. There are gaps because once the population has not been sensitized, most of these peasants, they will not know about the environmental aspect.
Thank you now, Honorable.
But I've tried through my, but the environment, there are environment officers in the district.
Yes.
They are there. That is their role.
Which they have not played.
Which they have not played.
Thank you.
So now I've come in, I've been going through media to sensitize them, to tell them the impact of this, why we don't have to allow them to cut the trees.
Thank you.
And this has been going, and therefore the population have woken up and said, no, they are going to destroy us by destroying our environment. And we can't allow this.
Do you see how the blame now comes back to the authority at the national level? Because one would expect that if an authority at a lower level does not play the role expected of them, then that's when you people come in. You, at least I have the opportunity to start with you myself. You're in charge of disaster preparedness and refugees. You get? You look now reactive. There are measures that would be taken at a proactive kind of level or measure, and that you have not taken up. Don't you think you're reactive, Honorable?
No, I'm not reactive.
You're curing the cancer.
Because managing...
You didn't touch the causes.
It is not in my portfolio to manage the environment. However, collectively as government, I would say, well, somewhere we have not measured up to the expectations of controlling, making sure that these acts are not allowed and regulated. They accept broad responsibility. But otherwise, in my opinion, the bureaucrats, the technocrats on the ground have failed in their tasks.
What are we going to do
and
for them?
What are we going to do? And this is what my complaint is, and our complaint, even with my colleague, the Minister of Environment, is equally concerned that his staff has not measured up to the expected regulations that are put on the ground and the laws. And therefore, the matter now currently is being attended to seriously, and action will be taken against those officials that have failed, that have aided the destruction.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable. Yes, we are here discussing tree cutting in Lamot district, but this is something that has been a problem for all along in not only Lamot, but almost the whole of Uganda. So how can we come up with a solution to this problem? It is what we are discussing. And do we really know the impact of this kind of act? We're taking a very short break. I'm here with Engineer Honourable Hilary Onek. He's the Minister for Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, and he is part of the population in Lamot district. So we are discussing the problem where he is a victim. And let's take a break. Please do not miss what we have on return. Yes, thank you so much for watching, and welcome back from the break. You are watching Pick a Point here on UBC TV, and we are continuing with this evening's topic of tree logging in Lamot district, but we are taking it in the national perspective. How can we solve this problem? Yes, we need the charcoal, we need the timber for furniture and whatever, but we need the environment as well. And actually, the environment as a need supersedes the other. Am I right, Honourable?
Yes, we have to manage the environment well.
We need the timber, we need the charcoal, but we need the environment more.
We need the environment in order even to sustain the timber supply.
Thank you so much. But now, one of the factors why such things have to continue happen, one would talk of poverty. Because if I don't have school fees for my children, I don't have any way of getting it at that time. But there are some 5 trees in my backyard which can fetch me 1 million shillings. Why not cut them down and give to these loggers and get money? Are there plans of enhancing the poverty eradication programs government has put up to see that at least we fight this kind of vice in that way?
Yes.
First of all, Honorable, do you agree that poverty enhances this act?
Poverty and greed. I want both to be there. Because the greed comes about when nobody is satisfied with whatever they have, and yet they have sufficient to live on. Definitely in Lamour district, largely we are farmers. We now have gone to grow simsim in industrial scale. We are also growing food crops like cassava and others. Our challenge has been market for this simsim. One time we had the price had gone very high up to about 5,000 shillings a kilo. At some point even it went to 7,000 shillings a kilo. But now it has dropped down to about 2,000 to below 2,000. So really the farmers have been having challenges because their crops, they can't get good returns from their efforts. They've now diversified to other crops like cassava, but we still also have farmers who plant, who go for cotton and tobacco, but those are few because there's not much money that they can generate from there.
It is not as lucrative.
We are trying to organize them into form of cooperatives to see that these crops that come should be sold at a good price collectively, so as to, and this have already started, this organization, this started. We have also, in some areas, we have irrigation scheme like in Agoro, and we are going to, government is developing one irrigation scheme in Palabek zone, which definitely would boost the agricultural production in the area and give jobs to our young people and so forth.
So
as you
those
know,
are some of the plans
some of the things happening.
you have as government to ensure that at least the community is not involved in this.
No. In fact, it is not even that, because the logging, provided tree planting is intensified to replace those trees which are cut for charcoal, for example. If they are all moderated and planted, there would have been no problem, because some of these trees which are logged, and then the logging, the cutting of trees, particularly for charcoal, should be selectively done, not to destroy the entire environment, like what is happening. They cut every tree and so forth, even some precious trees like this shea nut tree. They cut it down.
Shea nut
tree, which is actually medicinal, and it's also food for our people. So when they go to that extent, you can see that the people who are cutting it are not people from the area. They don't know which is the value, which is of value, which is not of value.
They only come for trees.
They only come for trees. Their target is charcoal, finish. They don't care what happens. And that's where the population is annoyed. They said, oh, look, how can you do things like this? And now that they've descended into cutting this Abselia africana, which is a hard wood, and some of these trees are over 100 years, 200 years old, and they're really hard. You can't ordinarily cut it. And I think the information we have is that all these trees they're cutting are just for export. They're exporting the whole thing to Dubai and to China. All those Abselia africana and so on.
The consumption is not even local.
No, not local, not local. Local here for school desks and so on. Ordinary pines, and these are the normal trees that people have developed in their farms, and it's not those are now being exported, and the farmers, for example, we have cases where the farmers, you are paid only 30,000 shillings for a huge tree which is over 100 years old, standing in your garden or at the back of your house. And
someone is going to
because of poverty, they just accept it.
Yes.
And it is destroyed. And these are trees that have been there for a long, long time.
Okay. Now, we have the problem, and we have seen the causes where, in my view, It is the authorities that have actually betrayed the ordinary man that
exactly,
side.
exactly.
Now, what steps are we going to take? Let me start with you as the inhabitants of Lamu, whereby other people in other areas will take lessons. What steps are you taking as the natives in Lamu district to see that this stops?
After several appeals to the local authorities in Lamu district by our people, and they taking no steps, instead they enhance the business by taking what they call tax from these loggers who are cutting precious trees.
Which tax is even suspected to be theirs?
The tax is not even there in the government.
Coffers.
They are not there in government coffers. So the population got angry and said, no, in that case, let's block this. Let's block the trucks. Let's stop this ourselves. And that's what this uprising coming. That's the uprising, the youth and so on are coming up. The uprising.
Which uprising I don't think will solve the problem.
It is just to draw the attention of government to act decisively.
Thank you. So that is the step taken now by the ordinary man in Lamu.
Yeah.
Now let's now come to you, government. What kind of arrangement do you have to solve this? First of all, in Lamu and at the national level, because we are not having any forests anymore. The other day we were driving to Mubende, Kakumiro. There was Heroes Day. But around Mubende, towards Mubende, after Mitiana going that side, I'm telling you, we no longer have forests around there. So what steps are you taking as government? Do we have to arrest anyone in charge of forestry? Do we have, what do we have to do? Oh, okay, what plans do you have? Let me not even speak for you as government. Well, especially you who is in charge of preparedness for disaster.
Well. There we have had meetings with my colleague, the minister responsible for environment, who is equally concerned, and we are working together to see that not only Lamu trees are protected, but we see all these
trees in Uganda,
these valuable trees, particularly in those areas where tree cutting is rampant, is addressed. And I think by what is happening in Lamu now and generally in Amuru and all these other parts in West Nile, the ministers realize that his staff, his personnel are not doing what they should be doing. And collectively we have agreed with him that we work out a permanent solution to this problem. And he's prepared a cabinet paper. We are going to table this thing in government, in cabinet, whereby a decisive position will be taken on how to stop permanently this activity going on.
Okay.
And then also, along with that, enhance afforestation by tree planting and so on in the area, in the zone where this logging has been taking place, to kind of support, replace the species that have been destroyed. Just plant so that we can have forest cover that will give us good environmental guarantee for the area.
That would be very good, Honorable. Now, you have a colleague minister who acknowledges actually that he has officials that are not playing their role, who are actually doing the opposite of what they have to do. Besides, you have officials in other government agencies, the police and UPDF, whom you also confirm, they are somehow, some figures are somehow involved in this vice. What plans does government have in handling such figures? First of all, why are we still keeping them in these offices where they cannot play their role?
You know, I would not blame the entire institution. The police has been very cooperative when I went there.
Yes.
Particularly the regional police commander, Northern. That is a super officer. He's a very good officer, talented and good, and helped us a lot, helped our community to strengthen their capacity to hold those trucks and hold those hold the logging.
Okay.
However, of course, in any organization, there are elements within the organizations
Thank you.
who don't do things right.
They
And there are
betray
some-
the rest.
Yeah, there are
who try.
some individual police officers and some military officers who are actually caught up into that business, and they are part of the problem that we have, because they harass. Like recently, on Saturday, we arrested my people there in the village there. They arrested a captain who should be based in Barara, but he
captain.
Yeah.
That is the same.
He's posting location. He's supposed to be in Barara, but he was this time in Lamo. He was arrested in Padibe. Then he threatened people. He threatened to shoot the local population. The population said, "Okay, we are ready to die. You kill us."
Thank you. That's why I best to ask.
And
you have all these other good plans about such figures. Government officials who should be respectable government officials who are again engaged in criminality that has deadly impact, like environmental, whatever, degradation and things like that, climate change and all that. What plans does government have? Because many times government has good plans in books, but you said yourself that the implementers end up betraying the whole system. So what plans do you have as government in handling such figures this time about this?
You know, our society probably needs cleansing.
So are we
Our
going to
society
involve
needs
pastors?
cleansing. Our cleansing needs cleansing, perhaps pastors and so on. Because all the good plans, implementation is to be done by people. And if these people, among them, there are all these, my boss called them weevils, it becomes a problem. Because the DPC kid boom has been very good. It's been help supporting our youth, our people. But our own DPC in Lamore has been lukewarm, has been absenting himself from the duty, and so forth. So you find that now, because among them, there are people who are already compromised by the loggers who go there with huge money and so forth. So I think some of those challenges, we are going to discuss it at a higher level, and we have to help our colleague, the Minister for Disaster, for Environmental Protection and Water, to see that we put all our might, our energy to support the people who are now resisting.
Besides your colleague minister, who acknowledges that actually I have some, let me also borrow the word of your boss, weevils within my system.
They are everywhere.
Do other agencies, heads of the other agencies also agree that we have bad elements that we really need to work on?
Well, if they don't agree, they are burying their head in the sand.
Okay.
You see, in all departments, there are people like that. You might have followed. In my own department, I had to suspend 4 top officers because of those kind of mismanagement of resources which are not meant for them, and so forth. We have those challenges in our society, but it needs really being firm and in your supervision and in the enforcement of the law. And I know that the country is large, so what happened in the one pocket of the country somewhere like in Lamoa, which is at the far end.
It is just a signal about what happens elsewhere.
Then now it's difficult. A minister sits here and there is happening. The minister is not a supervisor.
The chain of the people that have to handle.
The chain of people who are to handle those laws. We set laws, we ensure that they're in place.
You only get betrayed on the way.
But then
to the
at the bottom, at the ground level, at the bottom level,
where one man spoils the whole thing.
Spoil the whole thing.
As the locals, how are you going to handle your leaders who collaborate with the perpetrators?
The elected leaders, definitely, they will have election coming. 2 years election.
The solution is simple there.
That one will be sorted out.
But
the public servants, we shall complain to the public service and people who employed them to see that they are not there. They should not be there to mismanage our resources. They should be moved elsewhere.
What would be your message to a Ugandan out there who is involved? His business, his livelihood is based on trees that are cut, with the environment destroyed, but this is his business, this is where he pays school fees for his children, and it is his livelihood, charcoal and things like that. What kind of message do you have?
Is there no other things that you can do other than cutting trees?
Oh, no,
there are so many things that one can do. Yeah. Why should you go? But no, I can cut trees. I can go and cut trees, but plant also. You see, for one tree you cut, maybe plant 10 or whatever. An arrangement should be made that, okay, we are going to be having this kind of program. We need some timber to help here and there. But as we cut, we must replace them. There should be an organized way of doing it. You don't just go in the bush and rampantly destroy the whole forest and then, you know, without care, because you don't, our people now begin to think maybe because they don't live there, they don't feel the problem. We live in it. We suffer the consequence of no rain. We are facing all kinds of challenges. The species that used to be partly our food is also being destroyed. Now, all that is happening against the law. The law doesn't allow it to happen, but people are doing it. And yet, those at the local level who should be stopping them, some of them are collaborating with them.
Definitely.
So when that kind of scenario is there, then as government we have to change tactics and perhaps also ensure that those responsible officers are not kept in that place. And then we change the management approach to it. And those are the management approach that we have to discuss and agree on.
Yes, we have to be out of here, Honorable. What message do you have to the people in Lamu, the victims of this vice, that can also be taken by the people in other villages where business people go and cut trees for their own business-oriented interests? What message do you have for the villagers there? Because I, for one, am so happy about the people in Lamu who have come up to say no to the cutting of their trees. Although some of them, I'm sure, they are tempted by the poverty and they give in their trees. But what message do you have to these people of ours in the villages?
Well, I want to urge them to go on with their efforts to stop this vice from destroying them. Because I told them, it is like, you know, if you are destroying the forest and so on, it is like a hyena who has been speared here, and the intestine has come out. The hyena will see the intestine, thinks it is meat, and start eating it, not knowing that the hyena is destroying itself. So cutting those trees, we are cutting, like eating our own stomach, destroying our own habitat is similar to a hyena eating his own intestine. So the
money given to them can never measure up.
Never. Even if you are given millions, if the environment destroyed, it's forever. So really, I'm proud of our youth for having risen up for those kind of destruction that you can see, which is really destroying their livelihood. And I urge them to continue being vigilant and stop all this. I want to pledge to them that we shall try our best as government to come to their support, to ensure that if their local leaders have let them down, the central government will come forward to strengthen their efforts to stop this vice. Because not only Lamu, this includes Amoro, includes Yumbe, includes Ajumani, all those areas where the logging is going. I would urge the local population really to rise up and stop this vice, which is destroying their livelihood.
Because the last person I wanted you to talk to was government, where you directly belong yourself. What do you learn from this? That first of all, it has come up with mistrust from the public. People are rising up now on their own. You have officials that represent you at the ground who are actually becoming part of the problem. As government, what lesson do you learn and what kind of solution do you have to come up with?
There's nothing new that government is learning from this, because corruption is rampant. Corruption and destruction of government or misappropriation of government assets. It has now extended to misappropriation of nature, misappropriation of of the environment, misappropriation of the environment, where habitat of our people, where they live and survive. So that is total irresponsible behavior by those perpetrators of it. It is not supported by government. Government has put in place laws and rules that protect some of those tree species, which they are now violating.
Which are covered like
And
this. So
yeah, which are now violating, and therefore
the rules are there, Honorable, but who is going to ensure that they are implemented? When you have people that really cannot bite on the ground, aren't you rendered reluctant and harmless?
No, the government will come in support of the uprising in Lamour. And this will be just an example that is to be emulated by all those areas where the forests and so on are being destroyed.
Okay.
The challenges we have had as the people of Lamour is that our land are communal. They are not owned, individually owned or family owned, which would have made it difficult for these people to cut the timber, because when something is for a community, it is for everyone, everybody, and it's for nobody. Because now everybody will claim responsibility on
anywhere,
and so on. So I think our land, some of the issues that we might have to go to later, is to ensure that the districts have to improve on land ownership to make sure that there is protection of those environments where trees are being destroyed.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Just as we wind up, what is the situation as far as refugees currently is concerned? Just in a statement.
Right now, refugees from South Sudan have reduced in number. The influx have reduced. On the contrary, now we are seeing some trying to go back, but not many yet.
And probably the hope is there with the peace deal that was signed yesterday.
Maybe. But the influx is now from Congo side.
Okay. So what plans do you have as government? You're ready to handle? We
are overloaded by this burden. However, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees is aware, and they are in partnership with government. They are managing the refugee situation in the country.
Okay, we shall get some more time to discuss only refugees and disaster.
Thank you.
He's Honourable Engineer HONHILARY Onek. He's the Minister for Disaster Preparedness and Refugees. And we were discussing tree logging, or cutting for this case, in Lamour district. Something that is not only happening there, but all over the country. This is something that can result into desertification, like he told you, and bad things like that. So it is better we get to know what we expect and what we need most. Do we need the furniture most, or the environment that will sustain even our grandchildren and everyone to come? That is all we had for you this evening. Our best is that you pick a point. My name is Michael Jordan Lokomwa. Let's get back to you in our other programs. Bye-bye for now.